Hello? Please come in and take a seat. Help yourself to a butterbeer if you'd like. So I understand you've sought me out for my testimonial, a personal story of my experience as a substitute professor at Hogwarts in 1993. Of course, I'm happy to oblige. I noticed you have your notepad prepared, therefore I shall not waste your time. Forgive me if my memory falters, but I will give you my eyewitness account to the best of my ability. You see, it was my first time visiting the castle. I was hearkened to the school to fill in any gaps in the students' usual schedule, if another professor was for any reason absent that given day. Well, quite luckily, this so happened to be the year the chosen one. Mr. Harry Potter had arrived at the castle. I must say we were all excited. This boy who lived could perhaps keep the practitioners of the dark arts at bay. And to have him study at our school, delightful, simply delightful. That feeling persisted until I quickly realized this boy was either wicked or not remotely capable of making good decisions. Keep in mind, this is not a story you will find in the Daily Prophet or that Dumbledore will divulge to you. The story has been scrubbed out of the official archives, but I also happen possess handwritten testimony from a Ms. Hermione Granger, Harry's close friend. A testimony she conveniently now denies after Harry made a pact with a certain Gilderoy Lockhart to wipe her memory. Gilderoy's end of the deal, you ask? A personal public endorsement from the boy who lived to increase his book sales, with a small amount of royalties paid to Harry annually. Sneaky bastard. But I shall begin the topic at hand. Now, approximately 3/4 into the year, Harry and those two friends of his that he himself refers to as, and I quote, useful idiots, were meandering about in the deepest chambers of the castle. His friends, albeit unknowingly, were conned into a quest by Harry himself to further magnify his own glory and ego. Acquisition of the Sorcerer's Stone was the mission. Obviously, they soon found themselves in deep, deep trouble from this. You see, Harry stole his stupid oaf of an uncle's shotgun before he left with Hagrid. But of course, because Harry is merely a naive 11-year-old, he could not quite conceptualize the firearm would not function correctly because the barrel was bent at a 90-degree angle by Hagrid before their departure. Regardless, that did not stop him. On their so-called quest, he attempted to shoot the three-headed dog guarding the trapdoor, but it ricocheted, with one shotgun pellet striking Harry in his hindquarters. "Bloody hell," Ron muttered. "Shut up," yelped Harry in response, as if that was going to fix the stinging feeling in his arse. Meanwhile, Hermione was mortified by these pair of buffoons. She decided maybe it was best to intervene in this moment, as to potentially avoid another incident. "Harry, perhaps we should—" But before she could finish, Harry turned, with a glare as hot as smelted iron, and yelled, Maybe we should stop Snape from getting that stone or not." Hermione paused, concerned. A new revelation was unveiled inside her mind. I'm screwed. Yes indeed, poor girl. Harry, completely dissatisfied and looking to remedy his feeling of stupidity, decided to take a shortcut. I will provide you with some context before this next part. See, Harry had made a new pen pal earlier in his first year. A man morally bankrupt. A man who went by the name of Barty Crouch Jr. He instructed Harry through his letters and notes on all of the inner workings of the dark arts, which most intrigued Harry, of course. Anything to stop Snape from getting that stone or not, right? Because of this newfound knowledge, Harry decided he would simply cast the killing curse on the dog. It reeked anyways. "Avada Kedavra!" he shouted. The spell crackled through the air, immediately killing the dog. Ron was impressed by this display of power and resourcefulness. "Wow, Harry, I didn't know we could do that." Ron put his hand out to give Harry a high five, but took it away last second. "Too slow," laughed Ron. "I can do that, Ron, not you." Harry was not amused by these ginger antics. He was not here for games. He was here to stop Snape at all costs. They trekked on until they found themselves playing a game of wizard chess. They were winning, but eventually the tides of the match turned. They started to lose no matter. Harry would just use his friends as pieces. An ingenious idea, he thought. Ron to D5, he spoke with authority. Harry, you can't use us as pieces. What is wrong with you? Gasped Hermione. The rage inside Harry started boiling over at his so-called friends. Their complete ignorance of the concept that the ends justify the means was infuriating to him. A concept, I might add, was taught to him by Barty Crouch Jr. Harry snapped back, not letting this insubordination go unpunished. I need to go on. Not you. Not Ron. Me. As this fight took place, Ron was completely oblivious. He was thinking of all of the little goodies on the trolley that he might snatch when he goes home this year. Brainwashed into being one of Harry's goons, his attention was only brought to the present when he started to move as a piece on the checkered board beneath him. Wow. Wicked. Ron legitimately thought this was cool. Well, at least up until the point he was knocked unconscious because Harry blatantly blundered his so-called piece because he made a terrible move. In fact, Harry admitted he had never actually played chess before this because, in his words, it was a muggle game and those are stupid. This crystal-clear act of incompetence made for perfect ammo in Hermione's verbal disagreement with Harry. As Ron's body hit the ground, now daydreaming about candies and chocolate frogs, Hermione scolded Harry. You don't know what you're doing. That was it. I'm the boy who lived. I'm the chosen one. I will stop Snapey from getting that stone or not. The adrenaline was coursing through Harry's veins like a gushing river. He needed to act. He needed to squash the rebellion in his ranks. Ron, an unsuspecting victim, made for the perfect example to prove to Hermione who was in charge of this escapade. I'll show you, Hermione, what my Wingardium Leviosa looks like. Crucio! Crucio! Harry cast the spell onto Ron, his body contorting to prove Harry's dedication to the greater good. This shocked Ron awake. Drool leaking from his lip, he mumbled, Scabbers? Feeling as if he had proved his point, he let Ron go, his body striking the floor once again. Hermione to D5 was his move, making the exact same idiotic error he made moments prior. Alas, his friends were reduced to nothing but pieces in Harry's sickening chess match. Power-hungry and determined to win, he had already become the best Quidditch player through stealing a Nimbus 2000 and throwing sand in the other team's eyes. That wasn't enough. He now had to become the best wizard as well. As fate would have it, by doing the same thing, Harry got the same result. Hermione was now also unconscious. Now that he was running out of pieces, he spoke to himself, I suppose I should have brought Neville as well. Or maybe Dudley. He was fully succumbing to denial, but soon after this, Dumbledore rushed into the room, summoned by Harry's ear-piercing shotgun blast minutes ago. Accompanied by me and the other professors, Dumbledore yelled, "Silence!" in a completely quiet room. It struck me as quite odd, but then Hagrid barreled into the room shortly after this. He shared a distrustful glare with Professor Flitwick for just a moment. See, earlier that night, Professor Flitwick accused Hagrid of being the troll that broke into the castle, which culminated in Hagrid being interrogated for 3 hours by the staff. During my time at Hogwarts, I caught on quickly that Hagrid was the school pincushion for anything that went awry. I actually used him as a scapegoat myself a few times. Whenever I hadn't prepared any classwork out of my own laziness, I simply said Hagrid must have eaten it, and that was that. However, Hagrid's glare was soon disrupted by seeing Dumbledore rushing at Harry, pinning him against the wall. "Harry! Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" Nobody, including myself, understood this accusation. The Triwizard Tournament wasn't for another 3 years. All of my fellow professors grinned. I was unaware, but Professor McGonagall whispered to me that it was a well-established fact amongst the staff. Dumbledore was known to steal from Snape's potion stash, guzzling down whatever he could get his hands on. I suppose that could potentially explain this rash behavior that was taking place in front of me. She also informed me of a rumor, while not proven true, was very likely. Dumbledore had a great fondness for the Polyjuice potion, his role play of choice, you wonder. None other than Molly Weasley for a wild night out in Hogsmeade. Disgusting. I hate to get carried away, but I wish to paint just what a mess this situation was, and the whole school by extension. Harry was bewildered by Dumbledore's question. "The Goblet of Fire, sir. I'm not sure I'm aware." "Yes!" yelled Dumbledore, 2 inches away from Harry's 11-year-old face. Meanwhile, Professor McGonagall started spouting off random housepoint deductions. Some of them weren't even to Gryffindor, which these students belonged. I think she was sleep-deprived, or just far too old for the job. Suddenly, out of a dark corner, a student proclaimed, "She's bewitched." In reference to McGonagall, later come to find out, this student was put down here by the greasy janitor, Mr. Filch, 3 moons ago for detention. He was instructed to clean the entire chamber, which hasn't been used for 800 years. This was all very disturbing to me. I began to think to myself, holy shit, this school is completely fucked. The awkward silence preceding the student's proclamation was deafening, silence broken only by Dumbledore's second spiel about the Goblet of Fire. "Goblet of Fire, Goblet of Fire," spitting onto Harry's face. Potter, now caught red-handed, was ready to weasel his way out of this situation, his eyes darting around the room. He quickly came up with a justification. "Headmaster, forgive me. I came down here to stop Snape from getting that stone or not, and I don't see him with you. I think he is further into the dungeon." Dumbledore, foaming at the mouth, turned around to see Snape absent the group of professors. He explained to Harry that Snape was upstairs, investigating the murder of Neville Longbottom. "Harry, we have reason to believe a fellow student used the Goblet of Fire. Sorry, I mean killing curse on your classmate. That is why Snape is not here, Harry." The boy who lived knew all too well about why Neville's cold corpse was laying in the Gryffindor common room. Neville attempted to stop his virtuous quest, so he used the spell that Barty Crouch Jr. assured him only would stun his adversaries. Still, Harry, being uneducated and gullible, believed Dumbledore was lying. Not possibly Barty Crouch Jr., his pen pal he had never met. He made great haste to change the subject. "I need to get the stone," he protested. Hagrid began to walk over to Harry and Dumbledore to help settle the dispute, but paused upon hearing the sound of a faint "Scabbers," whispered by Ron, still laying on the floor. Hagrid was shocked. "Ron, Hermione, what happened?" "Silence!" Dumbledore yelled for the second time. At least to me, it was fairly obvious Dumbledore was doing more to obstruct the situation by now than helping it. Still, Hagrid went to go wake Hermione and Ron, bringing them to their senses. Ron had amnesia, and Hermione was quite angry at Harry for, well, you know, almost getting her killed. But Harry had made friends with Draco a few weeks before this. Draco informed him that Hermione was a filthy mudblood. I might add that Harry was so entranced by Malfoy's opinions that he dyed his hair blonde and styled it exactly like him. Harry thought it smart to bite first before Hermione. "Filthy little mudblood. You skank." Honestly, I believe even Draco would have thought the latter line a bit extreme. An intense period of arguing ensued, everybody in the room pointing fingers at one another, blame sloppily tossed all around. Finally, Snape had entered the chamber, proclaiming Neville to be dead. We all froze just like that. Dumbledore spoke up first. "A murder of a student on castle grounds. The Ministry will shut us down. I have £2,000 of gold worth of debt from my potion habit. I can't afford this. Cover it up immediately, Snape. Neville crashed his broom into the lake. That is our story." Snape responded, Perhaps it would be prudent to find the killer before we cover it up. There he was, the man Harry was searching for. Harry started shooting daggers at Snape. He was seeing red. He knew Snape has the stone right now in this very moment. It was in Snape's pocket, he thought. Crucio! The spell left his wand in a flash, striking Snape. A grin of satisfaction dawned Harry's face. Give me the stone. I saw you limping. I know it was you that let the troll into the castle. After this was spoken, Professor Flitwick couldn't help but chuckle. It reminded him of the way he sabotaged Hagrid by accusing him of being that disgusting ogre. Hagrid didn't find it quite as funny. Dumbledore knocked Harry's wand from his hand, halting the spell, allowing Snape to regain his footing. I knew you put your name in the goblet of fire. He spat his words onto Harry some more. Potter is deranged. Take him to the Ministry Albus, Snape immediately demanded. Hagrid restrained Harry, whilst Dumbledore went to whisper into Snape's ear. Severus, I'm keeping Harry as a pig for slaughter. We need to keep him around under a watchful eye. Until the day comes he and Voldemort both simultaneously perish. Snape begrudgingly accepted the headmaster's wishes. Ron turned towards Hermione, pointed to Snape and said, Why didn't you stop Snape if you're so clever? Go on, go on. Hermione ignored him, his intelligence so low he was beyond saving. Also, don't forget McGonagall was still deducting house points. She had deducted so many by now, all of the houses had negative amounts of points. Everyone's body language made it clear. We were going to clean up the scene and make no mention of it again. Hagrid carried Harry out of the room while he screamed about the stone and Snape, blah, blah, blah. He was an exhausting egomaniac indeed. As we turned to leave, we heard a nasty fart. We looked and saw Professor Quirrell crouched, attempting to slip through the door with the stone in his hands. Fecal matter leaking through his breeches. Merlin's beard, it stunk so bad. The smell of rot, only enhanced by Professor Quirrell's Bertie Bott's beans only diet. Ron thought this nasty flatulence was hilarious and cracked up laughing. The staff all suspected Quirrell ages ago, only we had no solid evidence. So when we saw him in his shit-stained pants scurrying away, we knew he was the one who possessed the stone. His legs faltered as he attempted to escape, buying us some time. Dumbledore demanded Hagrid transfer Harry to his grasp to grab Professor Quirrell. This became Hagrid's job because nobody wanted to accidentally touch Quirrell's soiled purple pants. Hagrid got a hold of him, which then Dumbledore traded Harry to Snape to go pummel Quirrell's stuttering face, but bam! In came Dumbledore's fist, shutting him up. With Quirrell apprehended and the stone reacquired, we all left the room. I don't know precisely of Quirrell's fate, but I did hear from one of the students that Mr. Filch uses him as prison labor nowadays. Meh. I never liked the guy anyways. Potter and his friends were sent back to their common rooms for further questioning the next day. We quickly had a staff meeting in which we were provided with non-disclosure agreements. We were all hurried to sign. I put in my notice the next day. I was not willing to subject myself to this type of magical and academic practice. This was purely horrid. I have found myself a new school, but I do hope you publish my story. If at minimum we might be able to get Harry arrested for questioning. If we're lucky, the school shut down. I personally have tried to get this story out there, but Hogwarts scrubbed my records of employment. I suppose, predicting that, I might snitch. As a result, Rita Skeeter and other journalists think I'm a lunatic. Maybe this will go somewhere. I do thank you for your time. I will bring you to the door. Good luck.